All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Patricia Alba, Assistant Director of Communications and Work Life here at UFHR. Joining us today, we have Cindi Hetz and Halie Corbit, UFIFAS Extension agents. We're going to talk to us about your W-4 and how to avoid fraud. Please hold your questions until the very end. You can type them in the chat and I will keep an eye on them. And once they're done with the presentation, we'll kind of go through the questions that came through. Make sure that your microphones are muted so that we avoid any interruptions. So with that said, Cindi and Halie, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Cindi Hetz, and I am the Family and Consumer Science Agent in Pinellas County. I've been doing some work regarding finding out what is the most popular fraud and working with folks so that they avoid it. We found that um, in general, folks don't feel like they are uh, going to be defrauded, but the data is telling us differently. And you know what the goals are. The goals are is getting your information, especially your financial information, and so that someone can get your money. They are big on manipulating your emotions. It's very urgent. There's an excitement, possibilities of getting money, and that impersonation. And again, if you feel like, this could not happen to me, I very much hope so. Just keep it in mind for the people in your life that may get scammed so that you can help them out. And most of the time, as the victims aren't coming to let us know that they've been scammed, they feel shamed, as though they should have avoided it, and they're blaming themselves. So, what I want you to do, we get those emails all the time that kind of test our abilities. Look at the email addresses, look at links and contacts. If you get something that looks real, because they're getting really good at making things look real, um, hang up, call your bank directly, or call the business directly that you've been working with. Do not share your personal information. I know that y'all are really good at keeping this information to yourself, but apparently somehow they're getting this information. And do not send gift cards. I feel like it is common knowledge that you're not going to pay your taxes off with an iPhone gift card, but these are the things that are happening right now. If you have bought a gift card for a friend or a family member for their birthday or a holiday, you may be noticing that at some of the checkout counters, when you check out, it says, "Did someone else ask you to buy this?" or something similar. That is how bad it's gotten, that even the stores that sell these things are making sure that people aren't getting scammed as they walk out the door. Just want to do a little comparison of the past few years. I do like the scammy snapshot of 2022. The biggest one back then was imposters, so pretending to be someone else to get your money. And then online shopping, so you're paying and you're not getting your items. Lotteries, prizes, and sweepstakes. Remember, did you even sign up for something? A lot of times people get our information and get us excited, and then they get our information and steal from us. Investments and then job opportunities. There's a lot of people working on scamming people that are looking for work, and it's probably going to continue indefinitely. Um, so just, remember to be on alert. It says over here on our more up to date one over here on the right, 1 in 5 people lost money. That's a lot of money that's being lost. And when we look at some of the information, the age groups that are what we would consider more elderly senior citizens, they get scammed less, but for more money. So they're getting scammed for like 10 grand at a time, 20 grand at a time. Whereas the younger generation, they're getting scammed more often, but for those smaller amounts, tens, $20, things like that with online shopping and different things like that. So just keep this in mind. It's really important. We want everybody to keep their money. It is very important right now with the price of everything. We don't want anybody to um, lose anything here. Let's see. Um, yeah, and here's just another little bit of some of the facts. So you've got your imposter scam, so pretending to be someone else, like the IRS, things like that. Remember, the IRS is never going to call you. The police don't call you. If there's a warrant out for your arrest, they'll probably just come get you. I think that most of us are probably really good at being model citizens, and you don't know this, right? So you don't know how these types of things work, and you get a call from someone who says they're a police officer. It will, raise that heart rate up, and that's how they work on you. All right. So the other thing is those investments. They are really getting good at demanding cryptocurrency, and getting us to think about, those big profits. And then there's also the online dating scams, which catfishing has been around for forever, somebody pretending to be someone else. Um, None of this is new, it's just in new format. So I like this. It's showing your dollars and your coins going away, basically. If you see a tweet or whatever they're calling it now, text, email, any other message on social media that tells you that they want you to pay in crypto, it's going to be a scam. Crypto is not backed by the government or banks. It's nothing should be determined to only be able to be paid for by crypto. You'll get something like an investment manager's calling you and contacts you out of the blue. That's number one red flag, right? Like out of the blue. Um, Promising to grow your money, but only if you buy crypto and transfer it to their online account. And honestly, when you're reading this right now, you're like, of course I'm not going to fall for this. Of course, please do not. But if you hear other people in your life that might be looking into this and thinking that they're going to really grow their money, you might want to let them know that these are some of the scams that are coming up. This one is always very interesting to me, that someone will pretend to be a celebrity and you can multiply your investment with cryptocurrency. I feel like a lot of folks that are senior citizens or isolated, perhaps they're starting a decline into mild dementia. These people are very, very vulnerable to these celebrity friendships. Okay. Make sure that, Uncle Joe and Auntie Edna are not best friends with Tom Cruise. You just want to make sure and I know it sounds absolutely absurd, but these things are consistently happening and we want to make sure that people are safe. And folks are preying on folks that are vulnerable and have possibly mental issues or loneliness, right? Again, uh, Jason Momoa, who we all love, is not going to send you money, right? He's not going to be your online love interest. But again, people are really somehow believing in this. Remember, scam. As soon as you meet somebody on a dating site and they ask you for money, it's going to be a scam. As soon as they start talking about crypto, it's a scam. Make sure you're staying away from things like that. And it's very frustrating right now. We came out of COVID, we're getting back to being regular people again, going out, wanting to make friends. And a lot of these scammers are really just hitting on that for us. There's also the guarantee. And you know that nothing's guaranteed in life, right? I mean, we all know this. Um, Nobody can make that guarantee in order to uh, increase that money that you're going to be investing, especially with cryptocurrency. There's nothing low risk about it. if someone decides to get a hold of you and promises you your profit, again, it's likely a scam. Remember those big claims? Big claims, again, they're preying on your emotions. They're preying on the fact that a lot of people are unemployed or underemployed right now, and they're promising free money. Um, Make sure that your families know about this. Make sure that your friends know about this. A lot of us know at least one person that's looking for work right now. The idea of free cash can be, pretty exciting, but these money promises are always fake. They're not backed by the government. Cryptocurrency is not insured by anything like government, like US dollars are. And when we deposit our money into an FDIC insured bank account, again, obviously that wording, it's insured. Cryptocurrency is not. And if anybody here is an ag, you know what pig butchering is, the literal term. But when they come to investment scams, it's one of the terms is used for a long con. It's well played out, and people are getting scammed for that average of around $50,000. So when you get those texts, and I'm pretty sure we all get them, some are actually real, some are not. Let's say, I'm picking up the dog from the vet. I'll see you at 6. And then you text back, oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. It starts right there. Um, they become your friend. They're really nice. They're starting to share photos. Um, those folks often describe themselves as the owner of a business, usually a restaurant or beauty salon. And then they start talking casually to you about spending a lot of money. And so, you're going back and forth. You're thinking it's kind of funny that you met a new friend with a wrong number because it seems like it's truly an organic experience. Like, oh, I met a friend on the internet or I met a friend on the phone. But usually by about the third week or so, you're chatting with this person, they start mentioning investing and trading. And then they start mentioning it over and over and over again. And then they start to specify a certain website. And then to help make you feel as though they really know what they're talking about, they talk about how they got a degree in finance or they have a family member with high level finance job and they know how to trade and all these things that again seem part of what you're learning about a new person, and it's not just all at once. It's taking their time to really fatten you up, right? um then they start making fun of your dreams and goals because they're not big enough. And so it kind of plays on the psychology that you are needing to keep up with other people. And apparently, this has been really successful. Um, and folks just really are trying to surprisingly keep up with a stranger, right? I mean, why do we do this? That I'm not sure, but these are the things that I found out while doing some investigation regarding the biggest scams right now. There will be an event. You give them some money because you finally look at it. You're like, oh, this looks real, and then there's a loss. But you can borrow money, you can reinvest it, and then you see the website that they make that looks 100% real. And your website it says that your investment grow, but you have to pay a fee to get it out. Your friend calls you or texts you and says, "Hey, I will help you pay off that invoice," but you never see the actual money that's being paid. It goes straight to an account. Okay. And then, gaslighting is happening, blame and shame, or anything that pushes your buttons in order to keep up with this keeps happening. And again, when I'm saying this right now, it makes no sense that someone would be doing this. But again, it's happening a lot. The trading website looks incredibly real. They actually set up a responsive customer service hotline. They're using WhatsApp. They're always available, and if you call to make a complaint, they never break character. If you have invested $10,000 or less in this scam, you can take your money in and out easily because $10,000 to them is a pittance. It's nothing. Once you start entering more money into their investment system, it starts getting more and more difficult to get anything back out. So the actual slaughter comes in when you have invested substantial amounts. You'll never see the money, they disappear. Um, any sort of fees or bills that they say that you can pay to get your money out, it nothing's working. You've just lost everything. You send a large payment to make up for anything. Oh my gosh, it got sent to the wrong place. Everything is just a lie. Even if you pay all those fake fees, they prevent you from getting your money back. But then they tell you your investment has doubled. And so you can't give up at that point in time. And these scammers never run out of excuses to keep your money. So this is, again, it sounds absurd as it's coming out of my mouth, but feels so real to folks that have been scammed in this way. They'll never meet you in a video chat. Every excuse they give you sounds reasonable. So if you see any suspicious activity, if you hear your friends going through some of this, or your family members, or maybe you have, someone in your family that is starting to decline a little bit, you want to make sure that they're safe. Report any fraud to these sites. Cryptocurrency is very popular, but again, it's not backed by anything. And then make sure that, go ahead and keep up to date. You can always jump on ftc.gov right now and see what the newest things are. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this. Y'all are good enough to Google that. Um, and then again, the imposters, those folks are imposters. Just a couple more things that I'd like to go through before I hop off here. Just remember, always verify anything that has to do with banking by hanging up, saying thank you, hang up, call your bank directly. They're never going to ask you over the phone to do something. Um, if you get an accidental payment, this has been going on for a while too. Somebody zells you accidentally, somebody, Venmo, whatever. They send you an email or text. And, oh, we sent you money on accident. You need to send it back right away. Don't don't touch it. Just call your bank and they will take care of it. That's what the bank's job is to make sure the money is in the right spot. If the IRS calls you and says you owe money, the IRS only issues information by mail. You can call them and wait on hold for 10 hours, but they will never call you and they will never say anything like this. There won't be a lawsuit. Police are not on their way. Again, I know it sounds absurd. People are getting conned left and right. Are online banks a hot button area for purchase? So I'll get back to that question shortly. Thank you, Brian. Okay, go forward. Again, you have one, but you have to pay those taxes on your winnings before you can receive your payment. Do you see the consistencies here, right? Like before you get anything great, you have to pay up front first. That's not how real life works. Um, do not send money. Did you even sign up for anything? If you do sign up for things, usually it's more like they just want you on their mailing list, right? You're just going to get junk mail consistently over time. One of the things that I do want to mention that's really um, important, especially as we're, you know, Halie and I also teach how to buy a home for the first time, right? And what I found is that you've saved up everything, you're working with reliable people, everything you're working with is fine. But, you do have to pay those closing costs. people are receiving emails that look legitimate that say, here is the wire transaction number that you need to send the closing cost to. And it's not true. People are losing tens of thousands of dollars because somehow people realize how to get this information on who's buying a house. They send you what looks to be a legitimate email, and people are losing this money. Anytime you're buying a house or a large purchase and something comes through that you're not quite sure about, you're not expecting, call the real estate agent, call the folks that are in charge of these processes before you do anything. I spoke to, excuse me, I spoke to a real estate agent recently, and it happened. I think somebody lost, it was $80,000 in this method. So I want you to be safe. And again, I know some of this sounds just absolutely absurd. How could anybody fall for it? The data says we are. I just want you to be safe. I want your families to be safe. I want everybody to keep their money because eggs are expensive, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, be as, you know, on the ball as possible. So, Haley, I'll turn it over to you.
Do you want to tackle Brian's questions first or at the end?
Let me tackle that first because I gotta pop out of here. Let me see here. Haley, do you have feedback?
Yep, I'm good. Go ahead and answer your question and then I'll keep going.
All right, sounds good. Let me find where my chat went. It completely disappeared.
It says,
Great.
are
Thank you.
online banks a hot button area for potential scammers, like offering high yield savings account, or are those pretty hard to, I think, initiate fraudulently?
Gotcha.
In,
So there
or,
are some really great solely online banks. I've dealt with Ally Bank. Um, they have, from what I've seen, not have any major complaints against them. No one that I've looked up as far as online banks in the past have I seen anything, uh, negative as to what you're talking about. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. But again, anytime that you're seeing, something that's just too good to be true, keep diving in, dive down until you find, what is the key here? Why is this a good percentage, APR, whatever? And a lot of times in the fine print, if it's something like your credit card or, loan, it's sometimes it'll go and you'll have low payments for 6 to 12 months, and then it'll balloon up to you have to pay off the entirety, things like that. Um, those are actually legal, but it's not cool. All right, Brian, did that help you out? I can look into it more later and get back to you, no problem.
Yes, he said good advice.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and please be safe out there.
Thanks, Cindy. So I was actually gonna tell y'all that Cindy talks about these and y'all think that they're probably off the wall, silly, that kind of thing. But I will tell you that last week, the day that we met to work on this together, I received a text message telling me that my Sun Pass was overdue, and that if I did not pay my payment on my Sun Pass, that they were going to um, put my license on suspension or something like that. And in the text message was a link to click on. Well, of course, I was like, I don't click on links, the fraud thing. But it still made me think, is this real? So I went to my SunPass account on a separate device, not even on the same one, and looked and logged in to make sure that it wasn't. So, I mean, we hear these and we think, how is it even possible? But there's things like that that make it real easy, and they make it now where it seems legit. So just be careful when you're doing all that. All right, we're going to change gears a little bit now, and we're still going to talk about money because that's what the whole thing's about. But we're going to talk about you're hopefully not frustrated, but Me and Cindy actually just finished volunteer income tax season with IFAS Extension where we do taxes. And I had a lot of frustrated people this year that were extremely frustrated over their tax returns and they've never owed before. And now all of a sudden they owe and they just don't know what to do. Well, it really comes down to in a lot of ways. Oh, they're backwards. Sorry, I don't know how they got backwards, but this one's supposed to be the first one, the other one's supposed to be the second one. Forgive us. You know, that happens sometimes in technology. So that happens because the W-4 has changed. So it was redesigned in 2020, which is what makes it fun, in my opinion, because in 2020, what were we all paying attention to? So you say somebody should tell me. Like, come on now. Exactly. COVID. Exactly. That was what caught our attention. It wasn't anything to do with our money at that point, unless we were talking about stock markets or things. But we weren't thinking about our W-4 and our paychecks and all those kind of things. We were focused on COVID and what we were doing to stay healthy and everything else. Well, of course, that's when they decided to announce this change. And so it was missed by so many people. Well, a lot of people are like, why? Why did they even redesign it? Like, what does that matter? What does it do? Well, it actually came down to a change in the law. So, the law changed where personal exemptions or dependency exemptions were not allowed anymore. In the past, when we claimed that 1, 2, 3, 4, 17 on our W-4, it was for exemptions. Well, when the new law passed, that had to change. Well, they say the IRS, I pulled this from them, they say that this new W-4 is simpler, more transparent, and has better accuracy. However, from my experience with clients, it does not appear that way or come off that way, is how I'm going to say it. So I'm not going to say that it's not, but if you don't know what you're doing, and most of us who try to read government documents have no. Okay, I'll try this. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So the reason that it changed is the exemption piece. And then a lot of people are saying, or have you ever tried to do a form by the IRS for anything? It comes with its own set of pages for directions. And most of the time, most people look at it and they get to about the third sentence and they're like, what in the world is this sucker even asking me to do? I don't understand what this says or how this is supposed to go or anything like that. So they're like, why? And what am I supposed to do? Well, I think that's kind of what has happened with the W-4. And honestly, I think it's for so many years, we did it with 1, 2, 3, 4, however many numbers you had. So now them swapping up and completely taking that away has completely confused us. And of course, there was no training, no information besides just the form set out there that really told us what was going on. So you're probably wondering why out with the old and in with the new. Well, I told you the law changed, so that was a big one. But what is your W-4 even really trying to do? Even back then when it had the 1, 2, 3, and 4, what was it really? What's the point? What is it after? The goal of your W-4 is to help estimate your taxes that are going to be owed to the government at the end of the year. So with your W-4, you choose to take, well, it is still a choice. You choose to take a certain amount out of your pay each week, each month, every 2 weeks, whatever you get paid, in order to pay those taxes that are going to be due to the government at the end of the year. So we all just went through tax season, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. You may have wound up with some extra, you may have owed all of those pieces. This is to help kind of balance that. Well, you're probably thinking, well, how do they know what taxes I have owed based on this form? Well, it comes down to the things that we mark on this form. So, easily on this screen, the W-4, the new one, is going to be on your right side of your screen. So the left side is the old form, which you'll see where you would put in that whole total number of allowances. That was that special number we would put in. It no longer exists on the other form. So you have to choose, just as before, your filing status. So this matters greatly in how and what you're doing. You also will choose different things about jobs, dependents, all of those other things that are going to make a difference on how much they take out in order to pay your taxes. But what it is it's all really an estimate of how much you're going to owe to the government. But there's lots of factors that play into that. Some of us, it's very straightforward, but for others, it's not. So what's affecting your W-4? Well, for starters, it's tax law changes, okay? The one tax law that changed it from the old one to the new one. But then every year, tax law changes affect your W-4. So, easy one that you can already look up and see for 2025 would be the standard deduction. The standard deduction for taxes has changed over. It's changed. It changes every year. I can't think of a year. I could maybe go back and Google a year that it didn't change, but almost every year it changes, and it normally adjusts by the cost of living kind of thing. A couple of years ago, it had a huge adjustment because we went from about 6,000 for single to about 12 in one year to the next, and that was to help make it where they didn't have to have so many itemized sheets at that IRS level. But it increased there. But those are just some of the simple changes. You also have things that change the amount you can put into your retirement. They change how much the child tax credit is, the earned income credit is. They change tax brackets. There's so many different things that can change. So those are the things that you have to think about when you're looking at this. Those changes are going to affect your taxes. So one year to the next may not be exactly the same. So it may have a different effect on your paycheck. Well, another part for that is whether the taxes are even withheld. So if you're faculty at UF and you have a tenure type position or anything like that, you typically are going to get a W-2, which means that they're going to withhold your taxes. If you are OPS, or well, most of our OPS get W-2s too, but if you were to have a part-time job of some kind, or you did a side little piece for something, that kind of thing, those could be part-time or side work, as we would call it. And if you do those, a lot of times you'll get a 1099, which they do not take, most companies do not take any taxes out of, as you're considered a contractor that came in and did it. So that's going to have a great impact because there's no taxes paid on whatever that income was. Then you also have other things like life changes. You could get married, you could get divorced, birth of children, adoptions, home purchases. That's a huge one. The selling of a home can be a huge one too. That goes both ways. Also, things like new income or raises. Well, what do I mean by that? Anybody ever changed a job during the year? A lot of people will have those different changes. You get a raise. Oh, we all look forward to those, right? But that changes that amount of income. So that could change your tax bracket, which then is going to change your taxes due. So it's all the pieces that go together. You also, most people don't think about it, but some people have other income. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, almost all of us, I'll say, have bank interest. Bank interest used to be quite a bit higher, and pretty much everybody got a 1099 INT that said how much their taxable interest was on their bank account. But not everybody gets them now because interest rates aren't as great for us on our money sitting in the account, not on loans, okay, as they were then. So you have different things like that. You also have, if you have any assets, if you have any stocks, bonds, anything like that, you have capital gains. And then if you have, you could also get dividends from those. Those are all counted as income that also has to be taxed too. And most of the time is not taxed before the end of the year. So those are ones that are going to get added when you pay your taxes. Then we also have the fun section of credits and deductions, okay? So you have, these are just a few examples: the child tax credit, earned income, IRA deduction, dependency credit. I mean, you have, if you want to itemize, you have all those deductions. So, medicals, interest expenses, gifts to charity. You also can get a deduction for student loan interest. There's so many different ones out there. There's an energy credit. I could keep going, okay? But there's a bunch of different credits that also affect your taxes that are due, which also plays into that W-4 as well. So with all that stated, how do you make sure that it's right for you? Well, first things first, you want to check your withholdings early in the year. So that seems to be something that a lot of us, we get comfortable, I guess, is probably the best way. When we first get hired, we check our withholdings. We look at our pay stubs, we look at what's coming out, where it's going, all those kind of things, because we want to know how much that net pay coming home is going to be. Well, then we get comfortable, and the next little bit, we don't look, and we don't look again, and we don't look again, and we don't look again, and we might notice a difference in our bank account, but we might not. Sometimes those make the differences. Well, if you're not checking and making sure that they're withholding, it can give you a very compounded problem at the end of the year. So it's always good to pull that pay stub and actually make sure they're withholding. Another one that's very common for people that have had W-4s that are messed up is, if you're married, both of you
are claiming married and both of you are claiming your children. In the tax world, that means that you're actually, if you have one child between the two of you, and the husband claims married, filing jointly, and claims the child, and the wife does her W-4 and does married, filing jointly, and claims the child. In tax world, that's 2 children. Even though you only have 1 child, that's 2 children in the tax world. So it's going to reduce the amount of taxes that are taken because I know you need more bring home and you're going to receive the child tax credit. But instead of doing it for just 1 child like you thought, it's doing it for 2. So you need to make sure that if you do your taxes with a significant other, that you actually talk about who's claiming what on their W-4. Head of households the same way. So say you have a child where you have custody half the time. So one year you get to claim them, the next year you don't. Well, on the years that you don't claim that child, claiming head of household is going to mess up your taxes. So you're going to want to claim single on those years in order to make sure that it actually balances your taxes out right, because you won't get the child tax credit and you won't have some other benefits of that. So those are just things to think about. The standard deductions higher for head of household, those kind of things. So we don't think about that because we think, oh, we're filling out the W-4 for ourselves. And I'm married and I have 2 children. So I'm going to put married, 2 children. But if my husband does the same thing, that takes our 2 children to 4 children and completely messes up the taxes being taken out. Also, another one. So I work for IFAS Extension. So we are weirdly agreement between the university and the counties. So I'm actually paid separately. Okay. So I actually receive 2 paychecks. Well, that also messes with my tax bracket and also messes with the amount of taxes taken out because they always assume it's one sole income job. And so that's how they take your taxes. So you actually have to mark that. So when I do my W-4, I mark that I have multiple jobs so that I can be sure that it actually takes out the max that it needs to. You also need to think about other incomes like those side jobs, the 1099s, anything like that. Take out more if you need it. And you don't have to do every step of the W-4. That's what a lot of people get stuck on. Back then, we did that little top portion and we kind of just ignored the rest. Well, now they put it all in and the signature's at the bottom. So now we feel like we have to go through every box. That's not the case when it comes to your W-4. You only do what applies to you. And honestly, even if it applies to you, you don't have to fill in the box. Again, I gave the example of me and my children and my husband. My husband does the children. So I don't claim children on my W-4. I just skip that part because he claims them. So that makes sure that we don't double claim them. So that's kind of just an idea. It's all about balance though, okay? You have to find that sweet balance between the amount you're willing to take out and the amount that you owe at the end of the year. What do I mean by take out more if needed? Well, at some point, it's going to take out a certain level, and then you're actually going to have to take out more if your income goes over that point. That has to do with tax brackets. So you have to figure out where your taxes are in those brackets and figure out what you're actually charged. And they'll tell you how much they're going to take, and then you have to add more. But I'm going to give you a simple way to do all this. So before you all panic, let's actually go and we're going to go to the withholding estimator. So the IRS has released, once they changed the W-4, they released a whole new way to actually figure out your taxes since they don't allow the 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore. Okay. We're going to go into the system and I'm actually going to show you. What I think is cool about the system is I know you're probably thinking, I don't want to tell them all my information, everything else. You choose how much you want to give them. Let me be clear. And then also they don't actually ask for personal information. Like they never ask for your name. They never ask, they'll ask how old your children are going to be, but they don't even ask their birth dates. They don't ask any of those kind of things. It's really all about your finances. So I'm going to stop share and reshare so I can actually show you this estimator, because this is the best way for you to be able to do to figure out how much you need to withhold on your W-4 and what it needs to look like. So you can find links, you can do all kinds of different things, but honestly, sorry, I'm trying to get my share button back. The easiest way to find it, in my opinion, yes, they have beautiful, wonderful links. There was a link on the bottom of my page. But the easiest way, in my opinion, and y'all can disagree with me all you want, is I literally just type in IRS tax withholding or withholding estimator. It's there, so I'm going to click on the estimator, okay? The first thing that comes up, did my screen share again?
Yes, you're sharing the Google results that you got.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so with this, You click on it and it tells you everything you're going to need. Now, I will tell you, it gets detailed. So you're going to need your pay stubs. It's not a simple like, oh yeah, I think I make about $2,000 a week. Okay, this costs me that much. Okay, no. Okay, that's not how this works. This is a true estimator. But you have to remember this is also an estimator. Can anybody tell me why it's only an estimator? I gave you the answer earlier. I'm seeing how much y'all listen. Yep. There are many, exactly. Y'all are getting it right. So personal info depends on what you enter. There are many variables for each person. Yes. Okay. So these are all. So you want to make sure that you get as close as possible. And then the biggest one is going to be the tax law changes. That's honestly, everybody's different. You're right. But the biggest one that's going to make this where it's an estimate is if they change a tax law. Because if they change the tax law, that now makes it a whole different thing that could. So they name it the estimator for exactly that. But let's do a scenario just so y'all can see how it goes through and goes simple. I'm going to do this as quick as possible, and I'm probably going to do my simple scenario. Y'all can go in and play on this. I would highly suggest it. I do it with mine and my husband's and everything else to get an idea to make sure so that I don't owe taxes. If you owe taxes this year, this is a great thing to go in and look and see where, if you need to take out more, all those kind of things. But let's do one simple scenario. I had a complicated one, but I know we're getting short on time. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to walk you through it and we're going to talk about it as we go. So this is literally what it looks like. We're going to mark our person as single. I told you I'm doing the simple one. Do you have a job or a pension that regularly withholds income taxes? This is going to be pensions. This is going to be W-2s. This is going to be anything like that. Retirements, 1099-Rs, any of those. The answer is going to be yes. But the key here is withhold federal income taxes. Okay, so if your paycheck is not withholding, then you would answer no here. Okay, but we're going to answer yes because almost all of us at UF have W-2s and they do withhold something. Okay, and then you see you already have other things pop up. I'm going to do this one just because I want to show it to you because I kind of think it's funny. So I marked single, but say I plan to claim a dependent. Watch what happens. Oh, hold on. It did it, but it didn't show you. So it's going to make it change it. I plan to claim a dependent. As soon as I claim the dependent, it makes it go to what? Does anybody know? You can't be single and claim a dependent. Does anybody know what it makes your taxes do? Yep, very good. Head of household. Yep, perfect. So it automatically will make you go head of household. You also have an age thing, blind, and if you're being claimed as a dependent, because that also matters on your taxes. So you can even show this to your young child who just started their job and needs to make sure that they're withholding enough, okay? That makes a difference. So now we're going to do, in this scenario, we're only going to have one income. I told you I'm being simple. I had a real fancy one, but we don't have time, okay? So we're going to say that it's like a UF employee. So we're going to say salary. We're going to say they hold it all year. But see, you could even say when you started, when you stopped, you can come in and change. So say mid-year, you decide to get a different job and you need to figure this out again. Guess what? Come right back and re-enter it again. It's there. How often do we get paid? With UF, we get paid every 2 weeks. I did this based off of an average UF pay. So just so y'all know. And then you're going to have to look at your pay period. So for this, I'm going back a little bit. We're going to go 3/27 was the end of the pay period. And our payday, why did you not click? There we go. Sorry about that, y'all. And our payday was April 4th. Okay. The salary on our paycheck was $1,900. Do you think, which one do you think this is? Gross or net? When it asks for you in wages or salary, is that our gross or our net? It is. It's our gross. Beautiful. Gross is everything before deductions. This actually considers it. It even asks you. So you notice I put in these numbers. Then it says, based on this information, it looks like your total income will be $47,500. So for us that have a good idea of what we get paid a year, there's your number so you can make sure it's even accurate. The other piece is, if you don't know, guess what? It gave you a good idea of what you're going to make for the year. All right. Then it's going to ask you about your federal income taxes withheld. We're going to say $228. Some of this I rounded to make it simpler for us. And that's going to be our total for the year is going to be $1,368 to this point, because that's what this is. This is year to date, okay? Now, this is where it's going to take out some of those deductions. This is why we put in our gross, okay? So you could choose, you contribute to a 401k, you can choose that like me, I pay health insurance, so that one would go in for me. If you know you're getting a bonus, which I would say, how do you know that? But then my husband somehow knows that with his job. So some jobs do know it. You could put that in and mark it. It's going to ask you how much is the bonus amount. It's going to ask you how much you paid in your pay period and how much you paid year to date. It's going to ask all of these questions. Again, I'm keeping simple. I hope I'm not offending any of y'all, but so that you can see. This is where it comes to that self-employment income, investment income. But these are where you get to choose what you want to add, what you don't want to add. And it's perfectly fine whatever you decide. It's trying to do the best estimate based on the information that you do. This is if you have any withholdings or anything, or make estimated tax payments. Okay. Some people make estimated tax payments throughout the year so that they don't have to pay that big lump sum at the end. This would be where you would put that in. Now we're going to hit next. Here we go. Look, these are all your different deductions we talked about. Remember I told you that they affect? So if you mark these, it's going to put that in. Right now I'm going to say there's no, but like I could definitely say I have student loan interest. So I'm going to put in the student loan, but it's then going to ask me what my student loan interest is. I don't know that at the moment, so I'm going to skip it, but I'm going to get a good estimate of what that's going to be. Okay. Then it's going to ask if you want a standard or itemized. This tells you your standard deduction based on 2025 is going to be $15,000. Okay. So you're going to take your income, your gross income for the year minus $15,000, and then that's what you would pay your taxes on. So we're going to say, I'm not going to itemize. I'm just going to use the standard deduction. Itemize is when you do medical expenses, those kind of things, but it has to go over whatever the standard deduction is in order to be beneficial to you. So most people nowadays don't have enough. Every once in a while, I'll find someone that does. Tax credits. Enter your age as January 1st of next year. Okay. So we're going to say that they're 33. Okay. Then this would be where you would do the child dependents if you had any. Why do you think? I'll tell you, if you choose that you have a dependent, this one right here is automatically open when you get to this page. But why didn't it open for me? I said I was single, right? So I didn't say I had any children. So it's not going to do it. You also have, or if you contribute to a retirement account, you can put in your contributions for that. Now this is your contributions, not UF's contributions to your retirement, only what you put in, okay? And then you have all these other different ones. If you don't know these, it's okay. You don't know how the end of the year. You don't know if you're going to buy an energy efficient vehicle. Just hit next and keep going. This is now your tax withholding estimate. So it's expected that from our paychecks, it's going to withhold $5,700. Okay. Our anticipated tax obligation is going to be $3,000. So in this case, we're actually getting a refund. Isn't that a cool thing? So it even tells you here what to estimate. The coolest part that I think about this is you can actually download a pre-filled form. And you can literally, it doesn't have your name or anything at the top, but you can download it and you can turn it in. Now, one that's interesting about this, because you are getting back such a large chunk, and most people do not, it even tells you that if you claim 674 on step 3, that you will break even at the end of the year. So it actually will withhold less, and you'll get more back in your pocket over the year, and you still shouldn't owe taxes at the end of the year. So this is kind of the best way to kind of actually go look and do. I will tell you, married, filing jointly, I've done mine on here and everything else. And for me, I actually have to go to this other adjustments box, which let's pull up the W-4 so you can see it. There's W-4. So I actually go down here to this step 4 and this extra withholding box, 4C. I withhold extra because between me and my husband, there needs to be that little bit extra to make sure that it covers anything. Most of the time, it happens to be his bonuses, but it's a lot harder for him to change his W-4 in his system than it is for me in our UF system, because we have full access at myufl.edu to make these changes to our W-4. So for me, it's a very easy change. So because I know, and when he gets those bonuses, I come in here and I withhold extra out of mine. Well, you're probably thinking, why would you withhold extra out of yours? Well, we do married filing jointly. So at the end of the year, all of that money is considered together. So it doesn't matter which one of us pays the taxes as long as the taxes get paid. So that's what I had to kind of show y'all. I hope that all of you will go play in the tax withholding estimator and figure out your basics. I'll look back through and see if I see any questions. Y'all are more than welcome to put. I hope that I helped you understand a little bit better your new W-4, how to use it, those kind of things. I will tell you, I could try to give you things about this kind of stuff, but it's really hard because without knowing all your other pieces that go into your income, that's why I like the estimator. I could tell you to, or give you advice, and it could be wrong because I didn't realize that you had a side job that you do. So those are the things that are going to be beneficial. So making sure that's why I wanted to show y'all the estimator instead of just saying, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I also saw somebody's comment and loved it where it said they read the instructions and their head was spinning or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. That's confusing potential get close to right, especially it can be very confusing. How do we change this in UF? So in UF, you literally go to myufl.edu, you log in, and you can always search for your W-4, or it's under the finances. Now I'm trying to think exactly where it's at. I'm a visual person, so I can send you a little thing afterward under self-serve. Thank you. I'm like, I'm visual, so I'm not good at that part. So, beautiful. Thank you, Brian. I hope Brian was on here. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that very much. He is actually the one at UF who is over our W-4s and helping us with all of that. So thank you very much, Brian. So Sandra, I can look at it with you together. If you use the estimator and you download that form like it shows you right here, download the pre-filled form, you should be able to put it in just the same. I've actually played on the one on my UFL and the boxes literally look the same. They have the same, just like this. I don't know that they're labeled 4A, 4B, 4C, but they say extra withholdings, deductions. They have the same labels. But I'm more than happy to help you if you actually need me to help you walk through it. They do have the C's and all that? I couldn't remember if they had the C's. I knew they had the main label. That I knew. But I couldn't remember if they actually did the C's and all the special of the forms. That's an IRS thing to have 4A, B, and C. Your 1040 has I think it's your income section and it's A through Z for incomes. That's how many categories it has. Any other questions? You also can email me. I'm in the system, Halie Corbit. If you have any specific questions or anything like that, I'm happy to help. I'll hush now, Patricia. Sorry. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any questions. Brian made a good comment though about how some employees don't always see tax withholdings because they don't make enough. So maybe just kind of reiterate that.
Yep, that is a good one. And that's going to be, so you have to choose on your W-4, you have to, like, you can't get away from, you have to choose your filing status and you have to sign it. You can leave all the other stuff technically blank. So then it's just going to do it based on your filing status is how they're going to do it. But yes, that is, thank you, Brian. I'm sorry. I didn't think to say that. It does matter. But that's why I say the estimator would give them a very good idea of what to do on their W-4.
Okay, last chance for questions. And while we wait, oh, there we go. You have one right there.
Yes, Ella, you sure do. And then you're going to want to use the estimator and you're going to want to figure out what the county does and what UF does so you can actually put them together so that you can make sure your W-4s are correct in both places.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Halie. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you, Halie and Cindi. We appreciate the information that you shared with us.